The Unit 2 test review, let's do it. It says graph the linear function on the graph below. There's many ways we can graph this line. I know lines are y equals mx plus b. This is the trick way, the easy way. So we know that m is our slope, which is rise over run. Rise or fall is really what we should say. Rise or fall over run. And b is our y-intercept, our starting point. So let's look at this. -5 is our starting point, our y-intercept. See, that's where it crosses the y-axis. Then our slope is -1 over 1, essentially. So we're actually going to fall 1, and then you always go to the right one. That's why I like to say, and then again, you always run to the right to get started, that is, if you want to get this started. So we're going to fall 1 and then go to the right one. Fall 1, go to the right one. Fall 1, go to the right one. To get started, you always move to the right. Fall 1 to the right one. See, now that I've gotten started, yes, I can move backwards left. But to get started, if you're going to use this trick, I'm saying rise or fall over run, rise or over run, you've got to remember to run to the right. So now that I'm continuing this, I understand that I need to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. But hopefully you guys understand to get started, you have to rise or fall and then go to the right one. So now I would just connect my dots here. Here's my line. It says find the slope of the line and express your answer as a fraction in lowest terms. So I'm going to start with the y-intercept. I'm like, okay, I'll start there. And then I'm going to go find another point that's landing at a whole number spot. So it looks like my next whole number spot is, I'm trying to move my way down. Where is it landing on a whole number? Right there. So we can see that to get from pink to black, or we can just count units, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 units that way, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have to remind yourself it's rise over run. So we're rising 4 units and we're running 3 units. So you'd say I rose 4 units and then I ran 3 units. Now the question is it a positive slope or negative slope? If I was a person standing here, isn't it true that I'd be walking uphill, which means it's positive? Okay, so right here, graph the inverse. Okay, well, graphing the inverse is easy. Write down the original x, y points and switch them. So let's just start with a couple points, like -1 up 5. I don't need that many. Over 0 up 3. Over 1 up, well, let's see, over 2 up 0. Then if this were me on my test, I'd say I can regraph that with just 3 points. So I need to go 5, -1, 3, 0, 0, 2. See, I just switched my x, y points. So I'm going to graph that over 5 down 1, over 3 up 0, over 0 up 2. And then I would connect my pink dots. And inverses should be reflections over the slanted line y equals x. So if you were to stamp it across, take and fold this like a piece of paper, do they look like matches? And they do to me. You'd be stamping like sideways over diagonal, over that green diagonal line I just drew. It'll work out correctly if you just switch your x, y points. It says find the inverse. So we know to find the inverse, we're going to switch x and y and then solve for y. So we would say, okay, really right now that's y equals mx plus b, because f of x is y. I know they have the inverse on there, but they're just saying find the inverse. So we're going to switch x and y. So x equals my plus b. You just switch the x and the y. It's really that simple. So you have switched x and y, and then you're going to solve for y. That's always what you do. If you're doing an equation and you're trying to find the inverse, you switch x and y, and then you just use algebra to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract b. So I have x minus b equals my. We're trying to get y by itself. Then divide by m. Once y is by itself, you found the inverse. So you'd say f of x. Why am I writing f of x? Because y is f of x. So I'm going to say f of x is equal to x minus b over m. All right, so find the slope-intercept form of a line with the given information. It passes through this xy point, and it has this slope. So you always start out with lines have the form mx plus b. This is the slope. Let's fill it in. Y equals 5/8 x plus b. And then the only thing we need is plus b. But they didn't give us plus b unless they did. Plus b is when x is 0. So actually they did in this one. Otherwise I'd have to go plug in x for x and y for y. But they gave us are plus b. Remember, the y-intercept is right here, the y-intercept is when x is 0. So you can see, oh, well, then they're just giving me the y-intercept. They're almost making this too easy. So you'd say 5/8 x plus 111/8. See, you just wrote the equation of the line. They made that one really easy. Most of the time, they won't give you this as 0 comma something. If they give you 0 as your x value, it's easy. That's your y-intercept. Again, though, usually they'll give you a different point. Then you'd have to actually go plug in x for x, y for y, and then solve for b. You'll see that come up. Use transformations to graph this. So what they want you to do is, I would do this the cheating way, in a way. It's not really cheating. It's using math to your advantage. I would say, okay, if you're forcing me to think about this as a shift from a parent function, then this is shifted down 5. It was a line that was shifted down 5. It was compressed by a fourth. And it was reflected, because this is how shifting works. Shifting works the same for all function. It was reflected over the x-axis. But then I would just secretly graph it like normal, but it's already graphed. Wait, oh, no, it's not graphed. That's the parent function. See, it has no shifts. So now I would just graph it like normal. I would say, okay, now secretly I'm just going to graph it like normal. This is my y-intercept of -5. My slope is down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. See, -1/4. It's rise or fall, which we're falling because it's negative. And then we're running to the right 4 units. And then remember the -5 is the -5 is the y-intercept. So I did my y-intercept of -5, and then I fell 1 to the right 4. So now I got to go the other way. I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I have that graphed. I didn't want to graph it by transformations because graphing a line the old school way is so much easier. But I did have to show UVU knowledge of transformations, which I did. I stated my shift up and down, which are added on the outside. The sign stays the same. Stretch and compressions are multiplied in front. And then the negative in front is a reflection over the x-axis. Okay, this one says solve this equation by substitution. I really wish I had a calculator on me just for easier math here. Let's see if I can grab one. I don't know how I haven't had it on me yet. That one's out of batteries. Just a minute, guys. Just a minute. Should have been prepared. Oh, dear. Trying to find a calculator here, guys. Give me a sec. Okay, found one. Okay. So it says solve by substitution. So they're forcing us to use substitution, which is fine. It's not my favorite. But I'm going to pick to use this bottom equation and get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 11y. So I have x equals 14 minus 11y. We then go substitute that in wherever there's an x. So it would look like this. -9, and then I'm substituting in 14 minus 11y. Then we have minus 10y equals -1016. And now from here, you'll notice in this equation, there's only y's. So we'll be able to solve now. We'll distribute -9 in. So -9 times 14 is -126. -9 times -11 is +99. Y minus 10y equals -1016. So now I'm going to combine like terms. I have -126. And then 99 minus 10 y's is 89 y's. And it's a linear equation. So I just solve for y. I just get y by itself. Linear means there's an exponent of 1 on my y's. So now I can just solve for y. So I'm going to add 126. Now it's just basic algebra here. So I'm going to take my calculator and go -1016 plus 126. I'm going to write it down. So I have 89 y's equals, when I added these up, I got -890. I'm just solving for y. So I divide by 89. Divide by 89, and I get -10. Y equals -10. So remember that when we solve this, we're technically finding, like, look down here, for example, it's 2 lines that have been intersected. So they want you to write your answer as an XY point. So you would say -10, comma, question mark. What is the X value? To find that, you plug it into one of the originals. I'm going to plug it in here. Now this is also considered an original. I just reordered it. So we know that x is equal to 14 minus 11y. So x is equal to 14 minus 11 times my y value is negative 10. So that's 14. Now you gotta make sure you do this correctly. It's negative 11 times negative 10, which is positive 110. So x is equal to 110 plus 14. X is equal to 124. Oh, and that was x. So again, it's still summer for me. I wrote down my y value of negative 10 where x should be, but x is 124. My y value is negative 10. That's where they intersect. It says, determine whether these two lines are perpendicular. For two lines to be perpendicular, they have to have opposite sign. One has to be positive, one has to be negative, and they have to have reciprocal fraction slope. So let's start with this first line right here. Let's just call this line number 1 because we can't really tell what color it is. Let's find the slope. So you're going to pick 2 points. I guess I'll pick this point, and then it's hard to tell because it really is a bad picture. So is the next whole number point, you know, is this a whole number point? It kind of looks like it, which means the slope would have been rise 1, run 1. Positive 1 is the slope. Now let's call this number 2. Pick a point that looks like a whole number. Pick the next point that looks like a whole number. I don't know. I'm just picking some points that look like whole numbers. So to me, this looks like it's falling 2, running 1, and it's going downhill, so it's negative 1/2. So these aren't perpendicular. If they were perpendicular, one of the slopes would have been negative 1/2, and the other slope would have been positive 2 over 1, or positive 2, in other words, because that's what makes them perpendicular. They have to have opposite sign, which they do. One's positive, one's negative, but they have to have reciprocal numbers. 1 is not the reciprocal of 1/2. Reciprocal means the fractions just flipped. So an example of another reciprocal would be 7/8, and a opposite sign would be negative, and then the fraction would be flipped. That's what I mean by reciprocal. So no, they're not parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope, and they're not perpendicular. Determine the y-intercept and slope, then write the function. So negative 3 is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is negative 3. And my slope, we got to put another whole number point. It looks like the next whole number point is this. We're rising 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, run 1. So the slope is rise over run. Our rise was 5, our run is 1, and it's positive. So our slope is 5. So then you would go y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. So we would say 5x. B is the y-intercept, which was minus 3. Given these points, find the slope of the line. So remember that this is really easy. You have to remember that you just subtract your y values divided by subtract your x values. If you need to find your slope, subtract the y values divided by subtract the x values. So it doesn't matter which y value you pick to go first, but you do have to stay consistent. So I'm going to go like this. This minus this, so negative 10 minus negative 9. Then divided by, you have to then subtract your x values. So you also need to move, I moved from left to right. So I need to move from left to right with my x's. So negative 1 minus negative 5. So on top, we can see that that would be negative 10 plus 9, which is negative 1. And on bottom, that was negative 1 plus 5, which is 4. So negative 1/4 is the slope. Okay, that was easy. Find the inverse. Okay, almost too easy. We switch x and y. We know this is really y equals x minus 15. So what I've done is switch x and y, and then we just solve for y. So I'm going to add 15. X plus 15 equals y. Boom, there's your inverse. Put a little negative 1 on it to state that's my inverse. Oh, and then it did say write your answer as f inverse. So you'd say f inverse of x is equal to x plus 15. Right here, this says solve the system by elimination. So what you're going to do is pick a value to eliminate. You need to have this so that when you add straight down, the variable cancels out. That's the elimination process. So I see that my y's will be pretty easy to make the exact same thing because this is a 2 and I can easily make that a 6. We really need it to be negative 6. The 2 is already negative though, so I'm going to times this by 3 on the bottom. So I now have I'm going to write it up here, 12x. Then I would have a minus 6y equals, and then negative 26 times 3 is negative 78. And now I'm going to add these two equations together. 12x plus 3x is 15x. Negative 6y plus 6y is eliminating. That was the purpose. And then we have negative 78 plus 3, which is negative 75. See, once you do elimination, you should have one of the variables eliminated, which y is gone now. And now we'll just solve for x. So we'll just divide by 15. So that would be x equals negative 5. We know that we have to write our answer as an x, y point. So now that I know that x is 5, I need to go find the y value. You do that by plugging it into one of the originals. So 3x plus 6y equals 3. I'll just use this top equation. I'm going to rewrite it right here. So that would be 3 times negative 5. I'm plugging in negative 5 for x, plus 6y equals 3. Negative 15 plus 6y equals 3. We're then adding 15. 6y equals 18, divide by 6, y equals 3. So we would say negative 5, 3 is the intersection point, which is the solution. Okay, it says find the function that represents a line that passes through this point. See, it's not a y-intercept, it's passing through this point and runs perpendicular to this function. So the first thing you're going to do is say, okay, the y-intercept here literally doesn't help me at all. The only thing that helps me is the slope. Ours is perpendicular. So we know that it's mx plus b. We know, firstly, our slope is perpendicular to 1/3. So we know our slope has to be negative 3 over 1. We can just write that as negative 3. Why do I know that? Because that's what perpendicular is, guys. You flip the fraction, change the sign. So that would be negative 3x plus b. Now to find plus b, you need to plug